Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. And first to say, if you want CCA points in the back of the room, as you know from other sessions, that's where you sign up for that. But today here in this session, we're going to talk about two subjects, one Provisia and one Ingenia. And I'm Alvin Rhodes. I'm tech service rep with BASF, working in Mississippi, Louisiana, and down in the Houston area of Texas. And I know a lot of you that's in here, so we appreciate y'all coming. But we're excited about the Provisia and the trait that's coming along and everything that's going to go with it. So I want to take just a few minutes to just kind of give an overview of where we are and where we've been a little bit. You know, when we talk about weed control in rice, it's a lot of grasses, broadleaves, aquatics, sedges, and all those kind of things. And what we focused on, of course, is a lot of the grasses. When Clearfield came into place, it was all centered around red rice control. And of course there's other weeds and grasses that it would control, but the big majority of it was focused on red rice at the time. And we had the supplement of many of the other weeds that were there. And Clearfield was developed basically at LSU. Got Dr. Lipscomb here with us, who was right in the midst of the lead of doing that sort of thing. But when it was first introduced, they said, well, it may not even last for 10 years because of outcrossing resistance. Well, we're going into the 15th year this year, so and it's still going strong. And we're going to have a lot of more successes based upon the Clearfield and the weed control that we've seen with it and will continue to see. And a lot of the keys of it, we've had some excellent varieties that come along. It was introduced with the Clearfield launch in 2002. Then we had some excellent hybrids that came along in 2004. As well as, the herbicide system that's gone with it, the New Path Beyond and the Clear Path that's in there. So we're excited about this, but the last introduction in that was in 2005. So that was 10 years ago, and it's still going strong from that standpoint. Now, a lot of the introduction of Clearfield was based upon following recommendations as far as how to use it with the system of buying seed, and buying the herbicides that go along with it. And we had some stewardship recommendations. We couldn't really enforce those strongly, but we could strongly recommend them because that is the key to keeping the existence of it. We need to practice the stewardship, and that's been talked about all through the years of rotating from Clearfield rice to soybeans or something else and not practicing 2 years in a row. We get some questions about, I can't do that for whatever reason, but from the recommendation standpoint, to maintain the life of it, practicing good stewardship means all the difference in the world of minimizing any outcrossing or issues or those things that go with that. And here we are from the standpoint of the stewardship practices that I was just talking about, going from a Clearfield rice into soybeans, using alternate modes of action to control any red rice, barnyardgrass, or other weeds that may be in there that could be subjected to any outcrossing issues with ALS. But through that time, we've had a lot of good situations where they practiced it, and that's what's kept it going. But we've also had some which we kind of had some shortcomings of as far as some outcrossing, had some F2s or other things that are considered weedy rice. Basically meaning weeds that have the ALS gene that have gone into it that you can't control with the New Path program that we want. So we've seen this in some situations. So our goal at BASF is to look at the next step that we can look at. Clearfield rice is still a strong, active part of the rice industry, and we feel like it will be for a long time. And this is going to be still the base of what we're utilizing for our rice system with the herbicide programs. But because of some ALS-resistant grass species coming in, we wanted to take the next step and what we can do to help the industry from that standpoint to control those plants that are in there. So some years ago, we went to our lab and started doing some more back crossing with genes to do a non-GMO breeding so that we can find a new gene with a new herbicide mode of action to help minimize that. So the lab, the greenhouse, and then we did come up with a new herbicide that was controlling the other rices, the outcrosses, but have this trait in the rice that was tolerant to the new herbicide that we had. And then we took it to the field. We did some lab work with it, and from the standpoint of taking it to the field and seeing that it's working there also. And we've had the Clearfield gene, and now we've got the Provisia that's coming, which is the new herbicide. And we get questions about, can't you just stack the two together so you use one variety or hybrid so that you can use either one of them on it? Well, our concern was if it become outcrossed to one of them, then it's going to be tolerant to both of those type chemistries. So we're leaving them separate so that we'll have two technologies that you can merge them together as far as a rotation program is concerned and help. When you get one outcross, you can control it with the other by going the other system and back and forth, building in a more long-term system and having Clearfield as the base and then Provisia as a supplemental system to go along with it. So then comes, as you all have heard, the Provisia Rice system. And Dr. Liscombe, of course, is the lead in developing this also. He's done a tremendous amount of work, and we've still got a few steps to go to get to that point. But today we just kind of wanted to introduce where we've been, where we're going, what we expect to be doing, down the road from that standpoint, and what our objections are. So it's going to be Clearfield rice and the same terminology for the herbicide. Provisia rice and Provisia. So now just a little bit about the seed trait that as we know it, it's non-GMO, and initially it would be Provisia varieties, and at some point Provisia hybrids we expect to be coming along. And they're doing a lot of work as far as not only the tolerance, but the other traits in it, the agronomic traits, the disease protection, lodging, and those kind of things that will make them good varieties when they are introduced into the system. So it takes a while. And I went and looked at some of Dr. Liscombe's trials last summer, and I think he told us that at that point he had like 24 different lines that he was looking at, but two of them particularly were looking really good. You go through thousands of different lines to narrow it down to the ones that really work, and that's what he's been doing over the past several years, and has fine-tuned it to getting some that are looking really good now. I think he had some planted in Puerto Rico over the winter, and it's getting near heading, so it's progressing quite a lot far along. And we hope to get it into on-farm production, and then our goal is to have at least a limited launch in 2017. So that's only a year from now, and then perhaps the year after that it'll be a little bit larger introduction from that standpoint. But it's getting fairly close. There's a lot of things still need to be worked out, but we're working on it, and we just kind of wanted to share with you where we are from that standpoint. As far as the herbicide is concerned, Provisia herbicide, quizalofop, that herbicide has been around for a while, but not in a crop such as this, which has got the trait built into the Provisia. It's an ACC ACE inhibitor. Basically, as it shows here, it is translocated through the phloem of the plant to the meristems, and as we know with this type chemistry, grameticide, it's going to go to that meristem and get a lot of activity right at that point, and you can just basically pull the top out of it after it has some effects on it, as is shown here in this picture. But we're excited about it, but it is a grameticide, and that brings a lot of positives to it in that it controls grasses. Doesn't really control any broadleaf weeds, just basically grasses. And a lot of them that we have are keys. It's based upon red rice control, which nothing else controls red rice outside the Clearfield system that's there. But also barnyardgrass, which is everywhere that needs to be controlled, a lot of the other grasses. And it'll also control any of the weedy rice plants that may have the alephs outcrossing or system in it. So putting all this package together, we're excited it's going to control the grasses. But there are obviously some things that we need to look out for. The grameticides that we have, can control all the red rices, the other grasses, other rice-type plants that are in there. Our recommendations will be for two applications. And this will be one of them early, which has some parallels to the Clearfield system, because grass competition is so intense usually early. If you don't take it out during that competitive stage, that's going to affect the growth of the rice itself. And rates are going to be, you know, a pint give or take a rate from that standpoint. And then second application will be up to panicle initiation. So a little bit larger. Those grasses should be, you know, smaller at that point. The target will be for the smaller grasses. It has no residual, so that's why we have to have 2 applications there. As far as gramiticides, you know, there's some long history saying that, you know, can be some antagonism with other herbicides. You're going to have to spray for broadleaf weeds and maybe some other things. So from the standpoint of tank mixes, we're going to have to be careful of some of the mixes that we have. Prowlet will work well with. Some of the propanils, it won't. You get the greatest amount of antagonism there. Some of the others, maybe between that point, we've seen some inconsistencies there, but some it'll work, particularly in that early application, more so than the later one when the weeds are a little bit larger. But we're going to sort some of that out, and by the time we introduce it, we'll give you some better recommendations on what to do from that standpoint. But gramiticides are something we're going to have to be careful of as far as tank mixes. But overall, it's going to be a great added tool to our system for red rice and grass control with a whole new mode of action that's going to be available for rice. What we expect as far as rotation is concerned, stewardship is going to be very important for Provisia, as it has been for Clearfield. And we'd like to start with some other crop, soybeans, for example, where you've been using a grass material to control red rice. You start off with a minimum of amount, and of course, all this is going to be in a rotation system. And then the next year may be Provisia, utilizing the program of 2 applications for grass control. Since it doesn't have any residual, then we can come back the next year with Clearfield. So that in itself will work well. Now we can't reverse the Clearfield and the Provisia because Clearfield has that longer rotation restriction for any rice from that standpoint because of the residual from New Path. But something like this in this manner could work very well. So overall, there is a lot of parallels with the 2 systems that we have. With the Clearfield, you know, we have to purchase seed and Emmys as registered. This there certified seed. Make 2 applications of herbicide and follow that good agronomic practices. And it's going to be the same thing basically for Provisia. It's what we expect going through the same programs with the 2 application purchasing certified seed this there. And the key thing again from the rotation restriction, there will be a recommendation strongly for stewardship to follow it to help minimize the chances for outcrossing, which can happen with this chemistry as it has with ALS. So we're excited about it. I mean, it's coming. It's only a year away that we intend to have some available to start looking at from the field. There should be some test plots around at various locations during this next year that hopefully you'll get a chance to look at and see. And we'll have some good varieties that are coming on for the introduction of the first year. Any questions I may have about it?
One of the first slides, I saw a picture of southern water grass as a problem weed. Have y'all noticed the Provisia doing anything with southern water grass?
So what grass?
Southern water grass. Y'all showed one of the first slides you had it.
Oh, go back up here.
You had it as one of your weeds.
Showing a lot of grass in it?
No, you had, not here.
There's a list of
in
one
the
of your first slides.
Oh.
Problem weeds and rice.
Problem
weeds and
weeds.
rice, exactly. You had southern water grass. Will it do anything for southern water grass? Provisia?
You know, on here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I don't remember that being included in any of the data that I have seen. Have you noticed that?
I have not seen it yet.
So we'll have to check in that. Perennial grasses are obviously a little bit more difficult that's in there, but catching them when they're small, and that'll be our timing for most of them from the standpoint of control. So we'll have to check that. Well, let's thank Dr. Lipkin. You know, we're fortunate to have him here in this session with us, and he's been the leader of this whole chemistry as well as the Clearfield. So we appreciate his input and continued work on it. We've still got a ways to go, but it's heading that direction.
I was noticing on your second application, is that the cutoff date, panicle initiation? Is that as far as pre-harvest interval?
Yeah, well, it says panicle initiation now. I don't know if that's exactly what's gonna be on the label, but that's intended. I would prefer it's gonna be pre-flood.
Yeah, I mean, and that was gonna be my next question. You would prefer that second application before it floods?
Yeah, we would. Other than that, it's gonna be big and, higher rates and that stuff.
Our residue program will probably allow it up there, but we would prefer the 2 applications to be pre-flood. To ensure good coverage and
Yeah,
everything.
the coverage would be the issue
Yeah.
too.
Mhm.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do it with ground root.
Yeah.
All right, well, if no more questions, we're gonna shift gears, and Dr. Dan Westberg is gonna talk to us about Ingenia.